And that's because we can ask for the money anytime we want. So give it to us when they actually have it and when we're ready, when we have the plan secured. So the realistic plan right now, the actual is 2020 is when we anticipate the first major grant coming in.
And then, you said roughly 95% funded by federal state grants, so if that could be, let's say it's 90% funded, so that means 10% would not be funded. So if we're talking about $10 to $11 million projects, or if you use your 5%, we're anywhere from 500, using 11 million, roughly 550 to a little over $1 million. It's not funded.
Right.
So the added money would take care of half of that. How much revenue does the airport actually generate?
Not a lot, but we're planning on about 40,000.
What do they do now? What's the revenue? How much?
About 40,000.
How long was gone? 6 or 7 years.
The match is set at 90% from the feds, and there was a 5-year reauthorization bill from them. So that match is set. They'll pay 90%, and then Indiana pays 5%. So the local match is pretty well set at 5%. The state has wavered off of that from a time or two, but we now have a dedicated aviation grant fund and a 10-cent excise tax on aviation fuel that funds that 5%. So it's a pretty secure source for that 5%. So I mean, nothing's guaranteed in life, but we feel pretty confident that your cost of this project will be 5% at the end of the day.
Which means roughly 550,000. So the airport's only going to kick in about 50 grand, give or take.
Well, we do have some interest that we'll have to pay on the line, the borrowing line. That'll come from that revenue stream from the airport as well. But looking at the cash flows, as I said, if the grants come in at the level that are expected, we should be able to pay all the project costs, including the interest on the borrowing, from the $500,000 added contribution in the net revenues of the year.
Any other questions, council? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. So, council, so we're ready to move forward to the next step. You ready to move forward to the next step? Get the okay to bring the ordinance into us next month? I just kind of wanted to make sure it was all okey-doke. Okay?
Yeah, I'd go ahead and prepare the ordinance.
Okay. Well,
I like to sit and think on it.
Okay.
Before I decide.
okey-doke. So next we have on agenda is,
We got a tax abatement I'm sorry, I was just trying to help you out here.
No, you did fine.
Lake Point Apartments. It was a little over $4 million expansion. I think we was gonna add 50 plus units to the expansion. The tax abatement committee met on this, and after some discussions between 3 years, 5 years, we recommended an approval of 4 years on the tax abatement, just based on the need for housing in our community. So that was the recommendation from the tax abatement committee.
Yeah, the TIP board recommended 3 years, and he wanted 5 years. So the proper life is 4 years.
Yeah, that was our recommendation. Obviously, we can change it to whatever we want here. But that was just the recommendation.
I think it's a fair compromise.
Say how long it would take to complete that?
I thought he did, but I don't.
He can start tomorrow, he said, as far as completion date. I think Jamie would say it was 7 apartment buildings, 8 apartments per unit, all 2 bedrooms. Currently out there is 120. Of course, he started in January, so it's going to be weather dependent on some of that. But he thought that he'd be able to get it done fairly quickly. He didn't specify exactly how long it would take, but he seemed to be probably in the next year and a half, I would say. He's also including a green space there for a dog park. He was doing so well, they sit back there.
No, it's all good.
One question I have actually for Chris is, should we establish the economic development target area first? And then I thought I was looking at that on the agenda.
Because you can't do tax abatement for retail without
For
the
retail or
parking
residents.
area.
Exactly right.
Well, I guess we could pass the abatement pending the approval of the economic development target area.
It's making things difficult. I move to designate the highlighted areas at ED. And that's resolution
2019-2. I'll second that.
Any other questions?
I mean, I know there's, and I'm sure we have, but if I remember right from all my conversations with the state, are we still within, we're not exceeding the percentage?
No, we're still good.
Okay. Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And then resolution 2019-1, the SB1 for Lake Point Apartments. Well, I think we're looking at 4-year tax abatement, right?
That was a recommendation.
Okay.
There's no more discussion. I'll make the motion that we go with the recommendation of the abatement committee, pass 2019-1, first reading. That's a resolution. Never mind.
Get a second.
Second.
Any other questions, council? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, Chief Bridges.
Yeah, it's an ordinance.
It's an ordinance, the other's a resolution.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, first reading on the 2019-1.
Okay.
Purchase of equipment.
What I passed out before the meeting is a little bit of why I'm asking for additional appropriation out of the public safety fund. Again, when this all started with the public safety fund coming in, our goals were to not raise our overall budget through the city, but to actually buy equipment and for new officers and equipment for vehicles out of the public safety fund. So I felt like it would be easier for me to come in front of you and ask for what I would need instead of kind of guessing through my regular budget. So to outfit 2 officers, you are looking roughly at around $18,358. And that there's 3 different pages on this that explains. And then the new equipment for vehicles is usually around $10,000. So I'm asking for $30,000 from the public safety funds to be appropriated so I can purchase equipment for the cars and the new officers. And with the money that I have in the machinery and equipment, that will cover the cost that's not covered by the additional appropriations, so.
35. right?
35.
Or I'm sorry, 35, I'm sorry.
But I was looking at the
My
wrong
bad.
sheet.
So that's for outfitting one officer and then
2 officers
2 officers.
and 2 cars. The cars normally would be a little bit more, but we were able to save around $4,000 because we have an extra cage in our garage to where we could put as a insert for transport, so.
I'll make a motion to pass ordinance 2019-1 on the first reading.
Second.
Okay. First reading on ordinance 2019-3, new funds for the autism program.
This is the,
Vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
the autism program, that's something that we have brought up before. This is to set up a new fund, which will be a non-reverting fund, and this will be paid for by donations from the community and grants. So we've already got 2,000 donated at this time. We're looking at another 2,000 coming in, and we've already sparked some interest from the community, certain individuals that have children on the spectrum. So that's what this is for, is to get a non-reverting fund started.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, Ashley, and First Financial, credit card system.
Good evening, Council. Jason Barbieri, Business Development Manager for First Financial Bank. Dan Weiser. We met earlier today with the Board of Works to discuss a change to the processor that they use currently for accepting payments for water and utility bills. We were able to show cost savings of roughly $200 per month, no additional upfront expenses for equipment for those changes. In addition, we discussed with the Board of Works instituting credit card processing for several of the city offices, and we wanted to bring that before the board tonight, or the council tonight, just to see if there were any additional questions before we move forward with the project.
I think basically what we talked about in Board of Works was putting processors in the clerk's office. Help me out here. Planning, police department,
Water.
and water. No one really carries cash, and I see no one. Very few people carry cash. We pay with our credit and debit cards, so. We're doing a better, I think we'll better serve the community doing it this way, and we are saving a little bit of money.
Will there be fees for use?
Yeah, that's my,
So you
how are
pay
we
them-
saving money if we're gonna pay the processing fees for all the transactions?
That proposal is specifically for the Board of Works for the water payments currently.
Okay.
That savings is based on the current volumes that the water payments are being accepted. The additional processing, we've kind of run some numbers on some of the board planning and other payments. We're considering probably an annual volume of about $50,000 in sales. At the governmental interchange rates, we're looking at about 1.5% for cost. In addition to that, depending on how many terminals are being used, I think we talked about 3 locations so far. Each terminal is at a cost of $160.
One time.
So the government,
Correct. One-time purchase, it's not a lease.
so the government interchange rate's 1.5%.
The overall effective rate, yes.
And that doesn't matter what type of card you use, whether it's debit, credit.
It does. It doesn't matter what type of card is being used. We were basing it off of the waterworks card volumes.
Okay.
We're anticipating that being about 1.5%. It's actually going to be a little bit lower because each of those transactions are going to occur in person, so that actually carries a lower energy.
And I think we have discussed, to basically come down to, do we wanna charge when people use their credit card, or do we wanna do an additional appropriation as a separate line item, set up a separate fund, and basically just have, these are fees to cover for credit cards?
So I pay my bill online with a recurring payment on my credit card. Is there a fee attached to that?
Yes, that analysis was done based on that, the water
You
payments.
pay the water bill plus a processing fee.
But I think,
Well, currently the city absorbs that cost.
Yeah, you're not
Well, that's what I
paying
mean,
that.
as the customer, I
The
don't.
customer is not paying that,
Okay.
no. Currently.
And many cities do it different ways. There are some that have a flat rate, there's a percentage increase. And that's purely a decision for
So I work for, if you pay your credit card online, we charge for processing fee. It's like $2.
We're not saying that that won't happen, we're not saying it will. We just need to look into it a little deeper.
But I do agree that adding those terminals is a great convenience to people who serve.
Additional questions?
So do you need them from us?
Just wanted to give additional input. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate you sticking around.
Okay. I need an election of the council president.
Keep it at Jamie.
Second, third.
All in favor, say aye.
Do you accept?
I will accept.
Okay.
It's the only time I get to set vice president, so, you know. Makes me feel better.
Okay, we also need to designate a newspaper for 2019 Greensburg Daily News and Daily Time.
So moved.
Second. Okay. Also, we need to, and it's not written here, but we need to.
All in favor, say aye.
Oh, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
We're good.
Okay, thanks. Non-funding review, nonprofits. We usually look over them in January.
And it usually it's February.
February.
February? Okay, end of January, end of February. Go ahead, if we can get some dates set up to do that.
We could ask them to have their packets in by, before our February meeting, possibly, and then we could set a meeting date in, either like, maybe February 11th or the 18th, or the 25th.
18th's a holiday.
Okay.
I can't do
Okay. How about the 25th? I was just looking at Mondays. Or it doesn't have to be a Monday. We could do,
Yes, it's a Monday for me.
But housing and airport won't on that night, 25th.
February the 25th.
What about a Tuesday?
Now you're
The
good.
25th works for me.
Would that work for you,
I
Derek?
thought somebody said it didn't.
I think the mayor was just mentioning there's a couple other meetings at night.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
But
works
we can
for
go
me.
over the planning room,
Yeah.
25th
So we're saying the 25th for,
February.
Well,
to have them all in?
yeah. No, we're asking them to have their packets in before the 4th of February. That way we can get their packets maybe at our meeting in February, and we'll have a couple weeks to look them over, and then we'll ask them to come back in on the 25th, and, you know, that way we get a chance to ask questions.
Okay.
What time?
You wanna do 7, you wanna do 6?
6:30.
6:30? Okay, 6:30 is fine.
Also, I'm gonna appoint Annie Tunley to the Historical Preservation Board. Just have to have your approval, council's approval. Thank
It's your appointment.
Get your appointment.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Just double checking myself.
We'll let you.
Not that we got objections.
Okay, well then, Mr. Pullen, you're up.
Board of Works report, Chief Bridges came, asking for, permission to pursue a third canine. Currently, we have two, or we will have two, going with the third one, and we'll have one canine on day shift, two on night shift. That passed. If you have any questions on that, I'm sure the chief would be glad to talk to you on that. Jeff Smith came and asked for the final, to repeat the final payment, number 20, for the expansion sewage plant. So we approved $104,218.14. We also approved a retainage release that passed, and then the contract extension for Strand, we extended that. It actually expired on October the 8th of 18. We have extended that to April the 1st, 2019. And the gentleman from First Financial came and talked to us, and that's it. Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Chief Garrett came and asked for disposal of equipment, permission to do that, a couple of copiers, gas stove, a washer, some odd end parts for radios, etc. He's offered everything out to other departments. They've taken what they want, so the rest of it he's going to discard. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else from the council?
Do we have any update on Lincoln or on,
Good evening. Probably the biggest thing that's occurred in the last couple of weeks on Lincoln Street is the opening of Washington Street across Lincoln, the opening of Hendricks across Lincoln, and the opening of Walnut across Lincoln. As we're probably all aware, Hendricks Street in its normal operation is one-way eastbound. However, because of the Learning Center being on the east side of Lincoln Street, the block of Hendricks between Lincoln and East Street remains in two-way operation. That way people departing the Learning Center that attempt to come down Lincoln don't get the situation there where they can't get out. North Street on the west side of Lincoln is open to traffic, and it's been returned to its one-way operation eastbound. And Central Street has been open to traffic west of Lincoln Street, and it has been returned to its one-way westbound operation to accommodate traffic so they don't get caught in there. We have one block of Lincoln open between North and Central. So traffic may proceed down the hill on North Street, travel a block to the north on Lincoln, and return to the west on Central. Lincoln Street is now open between First Street and Walnut Street. We do encourage people to depart Lincoln Street when they're southbound at First Street unless they have a specific reason to be in that neighborhood. On the east side of Lincoln, North and Central remain closed at Lincoln, and the block of North Street between Lathrop and Lincoln remains in two-way operation, and Central on the east side of Lincoln remains closed, and the block of Central between Stewart and Lincoln remains in two-way operation, so that the school patterns were not changed. They were left as they have been all fall. Our asphalt plants, as we have talked before, are closed for the winter. We hope they reopen, or we hope they're reopened in March when the weather warms up enough. In the meantime, our contractor continues to do concrete work. He's pouring sidewalks. We now have all the sidewalk work south of Central complete. They're working on the last 2 blocks, and we'll continue to do that until we get that concluded. Our street lights were to have shipped last Friday. Hopefully they'll be in literally any day now. And I'm assured that as soon as the materials come in, they will start erecting the street lights and hopefully placing them in operation very shortly. We do have Duca-set power to our street light controllers, so that's out of the way, and all those pieces are pretty much in place.
Okay. Any other questions, council? Motion adjourned. All in favor, say aye. Thank you. See you next time.